Hello everybody, it's Bourbon Bill, and tonight, a very special episode. We're diving into one of the newest releases from one of my favorite distilleries. To find out if it's worth the money or not, it's Old Granddad 16 Year, baby. So a big shout out to Dave Rankin, thank you sir, for sending the sample in this awesome, little Stoli bottle. Love it. Love the bottle, Dave. Thanks again, sir. So look, there's been a lot of talk about Old Granddad 16 Year. That's right, you heard me. Not Old Granddad Bonded, not regular Old Granddad, not Old Granddad 114, although Old Granddad 16 comes in the same bottle as Old Granddad 114. Just keep that in mind. It's the same high rye bourbon recipe as Old Granddad 114. Sadly for Old Granddad 16, they lowered the proof to 100. Feels like a Knob Creek move, you know? Feels like a Knob Creek move, Jim Beam. What are you doing? Keep it up. It would have been really cool to do it at 114, you know? But hey, I don't know. We don't know what those 16-year-old barrels, what the proof really was. They could have been low. And maybe they just felt, they watered it down to make more bottles. That's what they did. But it's at 100. And, I feel like Stonewall Jackson, my own troops gunning me down. I love Beam. I love Knob Creek type stuff. And they're going to go and price this at $190-ish to $200 hairs, okay? That's expensive. That is above $10 a year that we attribute only really to barrel proof, honestly. However, I give some leeway if it's really old stuff. Everything else from Knob Creek and even the Hardin's Creek series is below $10 a year. What is going on, Beam? What are you doing? We're going to compare tonight to a few others just to see how it falls into the value lineup from Beam and see if it's really good. Now look, I love me a lot of oak. 16 years old sounds good. And I love stuff from Jim Beam, so it's feeling like a win. On paper it felt like a win until we heard the price. Then it felt like Wild Turkey had entered the chat to stab us in the wallet. That's what it kind of felt like on that. So I didn't like the price, but maybe it's so damn good it'll be fine. Let's give it a nosing here. It's pretty good on the nose. However, it's a little muted. I get this decadent rich oak. That's there. That's on the nose. So don't, a lot of reviewers are like, well, smells like nothing. Their nostrils must be broke or they got the COVID. No, there's a nose here, okay? But it's not real deep and rich, if that makes sense. It's really just a very oaky nose. There's a little bit of orange citrus here, which, hint, we're going to get, I believe that's what Knob 18 brings. A lot of oak and a lot of orange, which I love for that. It's also cheaper and older. We'll see. We're doing comparisons in our mind before we even taste it. It's a lot of orange oak and caramel, but the nose is not, the flavors are rich, but the nose is not rich, if that makes sense. Right down the hatch. Oh, that's pretty good, but the flavor's all to me on the finish. So the finish, I get a lot of that orange, a lot of oak, a little bit of spice in there from the higher rye, I think. That orange we talked about, there's some caramel, but that's about it. It's not particularly a super long finish, but it's 100 proof, right? I don't know. I don't think it's worth the money either, and it just pains me to have to say that. Man, that's sad. I really wanted to love this, and I thought, I'm a Beam guy, I'm going to love it. And it is. It's very good. It's just for the price, we have the issue, right? If only they'd proofed it up, I think they could have had just a killer on their hands. But let's talk about why maybe they didn't before we dive into our actual tasting comparisons. You guys have heard me talk about this bottle all year. I'll link my review above. The must-buy bottle from Beam. The best thing Beam's ever produced that I've tasted. How's that? Hardin's Creek, 211 month, batch 2, 17.5 year. Beam. And it is phenomenal. At 109 proof. compute 54.5% alcohol by volume. Now, you say, Bourbon Bill, but how does this tie into Old Granddad 16? This is a year and a half older. It's 9 proof points higher. MSRP is $165 here, so it's less money. It ties in because of this. The note card, and we talked about this in my full review. So the note card, this is different than the other like Hardin's Creek Trio releases, right, of the year, because that was just a regular mash bill. They were fantastic, by the way. The Frankfurt, the Claremont, the Boston, liked them all. Claremont was the worst, but whatever. Like them all, they were killer, right? 17-year-old beam, 110 proof, most of them were killer stuff, okay? This one, though, differed and rose to greatness above those because it's a blend of 2 different mash bills. Their regular mash bill and then their high rye mash bill. So now it starts to make sense. These first trickled out in like December of 23, but most of them came out early 24. So it's going to be in my top 10 bourbons of the year for 2024, don't you worry. Spoiler, the Frankfurt won my 2023 bourbons of the year, and this was better. So this is a blend of 2, right? 1 high rye. So Old Granddad 16, I mean, maybe there's older stuff in it than 16, right? We don't know. However, my guess is they used the best of the high rye barrels that they laid down and blended it with this, because this does have that high rye note to it. It adds a lot here, but it's also 9 proof points higher. It's a year and a half older than the youngest in there. So I have a theory, and the theory is that what they didn't put into the Jacob's Well Batch 2 blend, because there was a lot of those bottles that didn't quite make the cut for like top tier stuff, and they might use that mash bill and other stuff like Beam Lineage, I don't know, or even that 19-year-old Beam they released for the Kentucky Bourbon Festival or whatever this year. But what didn't make the cut for those still had a good age statement on it, so they just like cut it to 100 proof and released a bunch of bottles, and they kind of jacked the price a little bit, I think. Had they released this Old Granddad 16 at like 120, 100, I would have said, okay, it's worth it. At 180 plus, $200 hairs, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Don't spend the money on it. In fact, we're going to talk about what you might be able to get instead. Knob Creek 18, baby. What's that? 2 years older. Now, sure, this is their regular mash bill, not their high rye mash bill, but it's 2 years older. It is 100 proof. Compute 50% alcohol by volume. And you might go, Bourbon Bill, that says KC001. That's batch 1 from like 2 years ago. Well, you're damn right it is. But they have released batch 3 in 2024. I haven't gotten it yet, so if someone has it or has a sample, go ahead and send it. I liked batch 1 over last year's batch 2 of the 18. Okay, I thought the 18 last year was just, it was oaky, but it was like almost too much at the expense of the other flavors in the original batch. But look, they've all been the same price, roughly $165 to $170 hairs, less than $10 a year. Now, I know it's 100 proof, but less than $10 a year for what's on the label. Old Granddad 16, not. So, you couldn't find Old Granddad 16. You don't want to spend 200 bones, but you want to spend 170, and you like them legal age. Knob Creek 18 might be for you. So let me just smell this one here. Oh, it just got that dang dark, rich oak on it. The orange notes here, it's almost brighter. So, on the nose, these don't smell too far apart, to be honest, right? I will say the orange on the Old Granddad 16, there's more orange in the Old Granddad 16. I'm also getting a little bit of chocolate now on that nose. And that the high rye changes the nose a little bit, but you're getting, a lot of the same flavors. It's orange oak, baby. All right, down the hatch with Knob Creek 18. Oh, it's so good. It's a lot of the same type of flavors, just minus the high rye component. So this is like candied orange, charred oranges, heavy dose of oak on the Knob Creek 18, brown sugar in there. The thing that is cool about Knob Creek 18 is that the flavor starts at the front, stays with you in the middle, and stays till the end. So it's a flavor ride all the way along. All the way along. Even feels a bit proofier on the end, surprisingly. All right, back to the Old Granddad 16. Now, after drinking the Knob Creek 18, this has like a vanilla creamsicle type scent to it, is what's really startling on this one now on the nose. Yeah, it's just too muted on the palate with all the flavor coming in at the finish for the Old Granddad 16. So, it's not an exact one-for-one replacement, but it's close enough for government work. Save yourself a few pennies, pick up Knob Creek 18. Okay? It's going to save you money. This is probably more available. They've done it now for 3 years. Okay, this is batch 1. Last year's batch 2. This year they're releasing batch 3. So you pick up, I don't know if batch 3 is better or worse. Your mileage may vary. It's batch 1, which I like better than batch 2. But it carries more flavor and is more cohesive than the Old Granddad 16. Doesn't necessarily drink older, right? Has similar flavors. Get a Knob Creek 18 instead. And because we're here, Jacob's Well Batch 2, baby. Oh my God, does that smell fantastic. There's oak here. There's like a berries, caramel, oranges, chocolate. God, this smells wonderful. And you can smell the high rye component, but it's so amped up over the Old Granddad 16. It really is. And that is so sad to know what could have been with the Old Granddad 16. All right, down the hatch on the Jacob's Well 211 month. Oh, God damn. Just the best of everything from Beam. Phenomenal. Caramels, oaks, citrus. Like a berry jam. Oh, so good. Oh, well, by the way, if you still want to save money over Old Granddad 16, pick up a Hardin's Creek Jacob's Well Batch 211. It's like, it's more than either of those other bottles, okay? So definitely pick up another one of these, or pick up one of these. So, I mean, we'll stop there because those are just the best alternatives that you could possibly find to Old Granddad 16 is other aged Beam, okay? That's the thing. They're available. If you look, as hard as it's going to be to find Old Granddad 16, you're going to be able to find one of those other two. They're both, well, Jacob's Well 211 is a lot better. Knob Creek 18 is also a better experience. So pick up those instead. Sad to say, Beam has let me down, and I'm sad about it. I really am. It's like, oh, it's like being stabbed in the back. And it's really the price they're charging. I mean, if it wasn't as good as Knob 18, but they were charging, again, $100 hairs feels appropriate here, 120-ish. You know, they could have charged 120 like Knob Creek 15 was, right? That was, call it 130 even, and I wouldn't have faulted them. It would have been less expensive and not as good as those two, and we could have said, okay, it's less expensive. But the fact that it's more expensive, Beam, you kind of do not do what Wild Turkey's doing and screwing everybody. Don't do it, Beam. Don't do it. But I still think at least, if we want to draw a comparison to my video, the Wild Turkey Masters Keep 10-year rye this year, the Triumph, which was anything but triumphant, at least this is good tasting, right? The Triumph was terrible tasting and also a bad value. This is just a bad value, but it's good tasting. You know, so at least Beam got that right, if there's any saving grace at all. So if you like what we saw tonight, please like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Have a good evening, everybody.